Well, and it's funny because they'll come running in from recess and they know what you're doing. So they run in, they grab the laptop, they get their book, like they're all prepared and grabbing whatever they need, and they get right to it. And you think, okay, we're gonna start. They've started, they're already into it.
Everybody is welcome in an inquiry-based classroom because they know that they are going to have a voice. Their learning is going to be respected.
I think it's real life, and I think that it's real learning, and it's how we as adults have to learn every day. If you don't know something, you've started a new job, you ask questions, you figure it out, you problem solve, you collaborate, you communicate, and those are all those things that are part of inquiry-based learning.
They really get to focus on interests that they have, and it feels like they're learning something that will mean something to them later on in their life.
The students are discovering answers on their own, as opposed to the teacher being up at the front of class telling them the answers.
And could you live on the comet? Ooh, you could say yes and you could say no. And then you would have to research and come up with reasons. Oh, they make more connections when you do inquiry-based learning. Connections that before I didn't see them make.
If I've taught you to ask questions and you've learned the skills of developing research skills and collaborative skills, then those are bigger skills that you will take with you into the workforce.
And I don't want to give you too much information because I want you guys to be the engineers.
So many teachers are so quick to say, you know, let us build the knowledge first. Let's make sure I teach them some stuff, and then they can problem solve, then they can collaborate, and then all of a sudden they're in high school. Well, then what? They haven't had all these opportunities.
Tape in the middle.
You really have to have an idea of where you want to go, and you also really have to realize that that can change at any moment with what your kids are doing, and be okay with that.
What you do is you start with a very engaging and interactive hook for the students.
Studying the comet, learning new and wonderful things.
And it doesn't matter whether it's math or language or whatever. And then you assess where they're at.
Anyone else? Is something that didn't get mentioned that they were... Any questions you have?
And then that drives what you do next. Don't teach anything if they already know it, but find that out.
You really need to be able just to give yourself time. And often when you give yourself time in the classroom, that magic happens because you're not rushing through something. The students cannot feel you rushing through something, so they're willing to take time and really dig into topics.
Just because you teach inquiry in a certain way does not mean that you never do a teacher-directed lesson. If the whole class is having difficulty with something, I'm going to teach them that.
When the students say, I don't know, that should be empowering. Okay, so you're going to ask as many questions as possible that you have. Then their questions around that, what don't I know, is what's going to lead everything else.
At the beginning of the year, we often have to kind of break down what they've thought learning was and what school was to redevelop as our classroom expectations. So how is it that we're all going to learn together, and what do we want to know that we can share, that we've learned, that we've taught our classmates, that you as the teacher have learned from us, which is really important through the whole process.
When we all learn together, we're building community knowledge. It's not individual knowledge. And I think then all of a sudden now, not only are they accountable to their own work, but then they're accountable to their peers too.
So to see if we could actually get Plan A to work while I edit the paper clips.
Can they ask questions? Can they research? Can they critically think? And that assessing those things can be as simple as a checklist. It can be anecdotal, where you just watch and listen to them, and then provide them feedback, right, so that they can improve.
So make sure you go back, and before you change it, somebody jot some notes down. Okay?
We'll create classroom rubrics on what we want the expectations to be, and they come up with them, and then they will mark themselves. And they are much more brutal on their marking than I ever would be. So it's quite handy. It makes me look like a very nice teacher at the end.
A lot of my planning time was for taking a look at what they've written to me or what they told me during that class. It's taking a look at those things and what can I do with that now? Where can we go with that to further their understanding?
Too high.
Just stop that with the materials.
I think the best thing about inquiry-based learning is I come to school every day and I learn something new. And I get a chance to learn from students ideas and concepts I would have never thought about. All right, scientists, you have had quite the day of exploring.
I want to hear what they have to say. And they always come up with something that I don't expect. That is amazing. And I think, yeah, that's why inquiry-based learning works.